It's incredibly important that asset owners are extremely prepared, abundantly prepared during this time, kind of across the board, no matter what their portfolios look like in this moment. It's a time to take inventory, reassess, and do your due diligence. So how can you help people understand how they can be so prepared right now to either generally look at their portfolio or really prepare for the worst?
Let's call it three scenarios.
Okay.
First, you have people that are over leveraged. They've done great. Bought buildings, appreciated, refinanced, bought next buildings. Tenancy was strong. Checks are coming in. They don't have a lot of problems. They never had any problems. It's been a great ride for them. They're leveraged up, so their mortgage are, they say strong LTVs with strong long, loan to value. So they may be mortgaging at 65 or 70%, so they're really up there as far as the mortgage. Then you have people that know already that they're having problems, serious problems, and maybe on some of their projects facing foreclosure as we speak, but maybe for right now, because the banks have been a little bit watchful, not pressing, not going gangbusters on default yet. I mean,
not forgiving, but not also pressing too hard.
Yeah, not quite there yet, but it's coming.
Right.
It's coming, but you're just not there. And then, of course, you have people that have done great, and they have great properties, and they have very low LTVs. Maybe they only have 25 or 40% mortgages on their properties, and they can handle it, but they also want to take advantage of possible distressed and opportunistic
potential investments during this time.
Yeah, it could be a good strategy. So let's take the first one. You're over leveraged, and it's almost like looking at it from a person for medical issues, right? They have the symptoms are coming up.
Okay.
All of a sudden they find out, I don't know what's happening at this property. The guy on the main floor is not paying his rent, and I'm negotiating every day with people on, potentially a deferral, or they want abatements. And I can't seem to get my arms around it, but things aren't feeling right. I'm getting the feeling like I don't know how well I'm doing anymore, because I have issues myself, and I have like maybe 15 buildings, and all of a sudden 4 or 5 I'm having these problems with, And when I don't know 100%, because as I read these articles in the paper every couple of days, valuations are going down, cap rates are going up, which means the values are going down. The things like we talked about with the guy has a hotel worth a couple $100 million is worth $60 million. What's going to happen to me? I'm getting a little frightened, even though my banks have not been pressing me yet.
Right.
But I know that from a health standpoint, I may not be in the best state of health right now, and what should I do? Second owner investor knows for sure he's got a great building in the city, and the ground floor is a great restaurant that's not paying rent. Or he's got a great building and he's got a huge gym in the basement or the main floor, and they're not paying rent. And the other people are negotiating on the deals, and the rent rolls and revenue don't seem to be coming in, and you have a problem at these couple buildings, and that it's going to just be a matter of time. The bank says, don't worry about it, we'll work it out. We'll give you a deferral for a couple months, and you say to yourself, yeah, so maybe the vaccine will come in a few months, everybody will start paying again. You're not really sure, but you're kind of hopeful.
Right.
And then, of course, you have the person that has a great property, and they're going to be opportunistic. But in any of the cases, what I'm suggesting to my clients is, number one, go to your CPA, go to that firm, because they have all your information. We do in our business, no matter what kind of commercial loans we're doing, we do a lot of commercial loans and construction loans, and that's our primary focus, is we go to the clients, but it usually takes a month or two to get the information. There's so much information to be got. This is not like, just give me a printout of how much revenue you have coming in. So you have to go through requests from your accountant where they're going to give you updated personal financial statements, which is going to tell you basically, it's almost like a medical report, like how well you are, how much money do you have in the bank, how much liquidity, which the bank's going to want to know, and what are those properties do you think are worth, and how much debt do I have, And that's a big thing. And then of course the global cash flow, which is also huge because the global cash flow looks at all your properties, all the addresses, who signed personally on these deals, what's the net operating income on every piece of property,
Right.
and what's the mortgages on all the properties. So on a simple calculation you can understand is if you take the list of the global cash flow, all your net operating income on say 15 buildings, and divide it by all your mortgages on the 15 buildings, you come up with a ratio. When that ratio falls below a certain number, the banks can't lend you money. That's an issue. These are the things you're going to want to find out. And understand you have to go back to your global cash flow and make these adjusted changes, because if the rents went down severely, then the net operating income is what it was before.
Right.
And if the cap rates have changed, then the appraisals have gone down.
The whole valuation is changed.
Yeah, the whole valuation has changed. So you need to, it's again a checkup, right? You want to see like where do you stand?
Well, I like the doctor analysis.
Yeah, the medical, like you're going for the medical, like you
health
know,
diagnostics.
Your heart's not beating so good, so
Right.
we better check all these things out. So this may take a month or two for the accounts to get together. And why is this important? For the people that are feeling the symptoms, they can at least prepare themselves for conversations with the bank. And they can also look for alternatives, which we'll talk about in the solutions later, of what they could possibly do in case they have to do something with refinancing or whatever it is that they can do as solution driven to get into a better space.
They can discover their options at least when they have the transparency and data in front of them.
I've seen a lot of guys that have $100 or $200 million in real estate, and they may have $1 million in liquidity. Like you say to yourself, how's that possible? Because they always feel everything is going fine and we're refinancing and the world is good and they're living good, and they don't really think of something like that. Nobody thinks of something like this happening. This is like you said, unimaginable.
Right, and that's why we're pushing on being prepared.
Yes. So I think the best thing you can start out with is the CPAs, because they have all your information. They have all your personal information, but when you go to a bank, they want personal financial statements that are 30 or 60 days old, not 6 months or a year old. They want global cash flows in the last 30 days because they want to know what the building is doing now.
Of course.
And you have to go back also and check. You may have a building with 40 tenants in it, and some of them are not paying. You're going to have to figure out what your net operating income and all these things that are changing. You just can't say to the bank, oh, look at my leases, because the bank's not going to take the leases as evidence anymore.
That won't cut it anymore, yeah.
That used to be the case. You give the bank the leases, they look at the leases, everything's fine. Now they do things like, okay, fine, send me the checks, the front and back of the check for the tenant for the last 6 months. And now they discover there's problems there. So you might first go to the bank and see how the conversation's going. But if you can see that there's going to be an issue here, you may want to talk to somebody. You may want to talk to someone that specializes in commercial finances. And not only that, has creative ideas about how to get to the other side. The starting point, of course, is being prepared, because you really want to see what the report really looks like. And then the next, to look at potential solutions for the individual, which is really important.
And this is where we'll get into some things like rescue financing in some of our later episodes. So definitely stay tuned for those conversations. Okay, but so at this point, we have all of our data, we've gotten it together, we have a transparent look into our portfolio, and we're starting to talk to our bank about options.
Right. And then, of course, the third person may be the one that's looking for opportunistic deals, should have that information also, because we'll talk about solutions there as well.
Yep.
What can they do to get money ready for a deal that's going to take place? Because the last thing you want to do is a deal comes up and you want to go for it immediately, and then you go to your bank and they say, oh, yeah, we can get this done in 2 or 3 months.
Right.
You're not going to have the cash for it. So they also have to be prepared for the opportunity.
There's some due diligence
and we'll discuss that as well.
Yeah, and deals are coming up in the most kind of unexpected ways.
It's going to be a few months, but it's going to happen big time.